in the flying machine business. You can hardly compare a single-engine STOL aircraft with today's modern four-engine transport. However, if you do count noses, Air America's fleet is slightly larger than that of Pan American, and Pan American's is the 5th largest fleet in the world. Air America is operating some 15 different types of aircraft. This particular range has been selected to meet the needs of our customers, and particularly the customers in Southeast Asia.
I've been with Air America about 8 years now, and it's a good, interesting job. Now I'm flying C-46s out of Vientiane, and I'm just doing something that I think is great.
I have to leave home for Yokohama flight about 5:30 in the morning. I wanted to be a stewardess actually since I was still in school.
You know, I always have the feeling that I'm just one of the average pilots, and I've got a lot of friends in Laos and met over the years, great interest in what's going on and what's happening to these people. I've become very involved in the mail program.
The reason why I like a stewardess job is that I can meet many people in every flight, and also I can go to places where I've never been.
Of course, we do have a lot of pads that are about 6,000, 6,500 feet, and these pads are quite a bit more tricky. It's not just the altitude that's a problem. You have high winds and odd air currents, you know, that around mountain tops and so on you have to take into consideration. Doing this type of work, it's technically challenging, yes, it's difficult, but you have to like it. If you don't like it, this must be the most difficult job in the world to do. I can't imagine anyone flying here for an extended period of time and not really enjoying what he's doing.
Our primary job is dropping rice to the refugee settlements that are spread all over the country. And the rest of the time we have scheduled flights down to the southern part of the country. We run for USAID to Bangkok once a week.
Sky Cap, Oscar Mike.
Well, it's Oscar Mike, just it's the phonetic for OM, which is operations manager. We walk in the morning at 6 o'clock, let's say, and assuming there are no changes in the schedule, no unscheduled maintenance breakdowns, no pilots get sick, all the cargo shows it's supposed to show, everything works beautifully. So you could sit there all day and just watch it go.
La, two things. Is Papa Echo Alpha ready to go?
It very seldom works that way.
Okay, you called out standby pilot, did you not?
USAID gets a requirement of how many people they have to feed at such and such an area, and they program these all out by day, and as each day comes up they try to get that day's quota. Well, quite often the weather at one place will be bad, and so when they give you what we call a drop sheet, it will have listed on there our primary DZ plus 3, sometimes 4 alternate DZs. I wouldn't trade this particular job here for any I can think of. There's a bit of challenge to go to some little mountain peak, drop 12,000 pounds of rice right almost in their cooking pot. So, I mean, you get a bit of pride doing this.
The real key to being able to operate successfully in a foreign country, in a business sense, is to incorporate as many of the nationals of that country as you can into your operation. You do two things at that moment in time. You raise their technical skill and standards to a level that they would not otherwise have, and you better your own operation because you gain the support of the local populace. We are running the largest single enterprise which hires Laos in the country.
Saigon ground, helicopter 07 X-ray.
Lima, Taxi to runway 25 left, number 3965, wind 24, 0 1.
Hotel 756, rooftop in 10 minutes.
Basically, the C-46 is a tremendously reliable airplane. You can, on single engine, climb out of any place. It has a lot going for you. A lot of power, good control. You can get it in real short. You can haul on the average 12,000 pounds and drop it with pretty good accuracy. The C-46 is the greatest plane we have over here, actually, I believe, for getting the job done.
Since we operate in every province and hamlet practically in Vietnam, and they have to be supported, and people have to be gotten back and forth, and cargo has to go in and out. Without the helicopter, we couldn't operate, really.
Fire guard. On the right. Here we go. 4, 8, 12, 16. Fuel pressure on the right. Oil pressure coming up. Hydraulic pressure is normal. Fuel pressure on the left. Oil pressure and hydraulic pressure.
America's headquarters is in Washington, D.C., and the majority of its flying operation is conducted in the Far East. Air America also has a purchasing office in North Hollywood, California. Further, Air America owns and leases Super Hercules aircraft to another operator. Air America's activities in the Far East are principally at Vientiane in Laos, at Udon in Bangkok in Thailand, at Saigon, Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines, Hong Kong, Kadena, Okinawa, and at Yokota in Japan. AirAsia, a subsidiary of Air America, operates in Taiwan with its headquarters at Taipei and with a major maintenance base at Tainan. Air America leases 2 727 aircraft to another operator, which operates them from Japan to Korea and to Southeast Asia under a military airlift command contract. Pacific Corporation, organized in the state of Delaware, is the parent of and provides financing for Air America. Air America, also a Delaware corporation, and AirAsia Company Limited, its wholly owned subsidiary organized in Taiwan, are the operating entities in the Far East. The boards of directors of the Pacific Corporation, of Air America, and of AirAsia Company Limited are executives with extensive backgrounds in finance and international aviation.
A central management structure controls Air America's and AirAsia's activities. Our customers, principally the United States government, but other governments and private companies as well, call upon us to do a unique variety of things: to fly people and cargo, to maintain and repair, to perform a broad spectrum of other services. This wide breadth of circumstances creates rather complex problems of organization and coordination, of technical control, and economic efficiency. The organization that results directs and coordinates flying and technical operations throughout our system. It underlies each mission, each aircraft.
In Yokota Air Base, I check everything on the airplane. Then we welcome the passengers. We count their number, and if it is right, tell the captain the cabin is ready to take off. The most important thing in flight is the security of passengers, the safety of passengers. Then service and comfort is the second. When a passenger tells me it was a very good flight, I'm so very happy.
Air America's mission in Laos is probably best described as being the furnishing of air support for U.S. objectives in this country, as are set forth to us by our customers, principally the United States Agency for International Development in Laos, and carried out here from Vientiane, for the most part, in our fleet of company aircraft.
We spend most of our time taking off climbing, descending and landing.
Hello, Lima, 60 Foxtrot.
60 Foxtrot, Lima.
60 Foxtrot off the ground, Lima 0A at 0640. We'll be operating in the 20 alternate area. I'll be giving you a call every 30 minutes.
Lima, roger. Our average leg is 20 minutes. 20 minutes long.
Skycap 60 Fox, landing 251 in 10 minutes. Copy.
We have had pilots fly as many as 68 missions in one day in fixed-wing aircraft. The other day, I flew 34 missions. A landing strip is usually adjacent to an ocean village. It's the only connection that this village has with the outside world, as far as getting in their food and removing their sick and having attention. These strips are one and all highly elevated. They're on ridge lines or they're on peaks. The people don't live down in the valleys where there's the mosquitoes, where there's the waste, where there is the flooding. They live on the peaks and the ridges. So therefore, these strips, normally what they are is they are planed off ridge lines, averaging a mean sea level elevation of 3, 4, or 5,000 feet. A strip then that's only about 4, 5, or 600 feet long, and when I say that's all along the coast straight, that's not very straight. That means it only has a 15 or 20 degree bend in it somewhere between the front and the end. The average width of these strips are about 35 feet, keeping in mind that our wingspan is 49 feet, the gear width is 10 feet. There's an upslope gradient, which you always land into. Of course, the upslope will take off on the downslope. A gradient of anywhere from 5 to 30 degrees of upslope. I really don't think of it as dangerous if I only have to worry about my own skill. Not that it's anything extraordinary, but if I can count on it. I know what my own limits are. And I know how long the strip is, how wide it is, and I know I can make it or I can't make it. I would say the primary dangerous factor is wind gusts and drafts. Wind varying direction, wind varying in intensity, and thermals, the lack of, the non-existence of, or the sudden presence of, can affect an aircraft's flight path so radically, so suddenly. And that's why when I come into a strip, from 5 minutes out, I'm searching for smoke, small fires for wind direction. You've really got to take your time and plan your approach carefully. A second factor is the runway condition. Standing water, sod, flat grass, these kind of things a pilot can't tell too well from the air. It can get him into very serious and critical trouble. We have a great problem with maintaining the strips, and it's a great deal of eroding and rutting, loss of any markers that we could put into them, and the runway surface erodes so badly in just a matter of 2 weeks. The strip can be usable on a Monday, and on Friday it would tear off the tail wheel. So these are the things which make it dangerous. The elements of nature around you that are varying from day to day, and in fact, unfortunately, from minute to minute.
Skycat 60 Fox.
They know that our fixed-wing aircraft are supposed to report in every 30 minutes. And if they don't report in every 30 minutes, they query about it. And I hope they never lose interest in this. It's it's a nice feeling to know that some guy back there read the manual and he's supposed to initiate an SAR procedure. A certain time elapsed afterwards.
This Oscar Mike?
The OM is the man that ultimately decides whether to go look for an airplane or whether to get concerned. If an aircraft looks to him like it's been a little too long since the last report, he will initiate a tracer. His time really is spent coordinating problems that arise during the day. I think unscheduled maintenance is probably our biggest problem because we have the entire fleet committed almost every day. Anytime you have one airplane down for unscheduled maintenance, you've created a problem. Sometimes you might have to change 3 or 4 others in order to cover up for that one that just went out of commission.
In not only Saigon, but all of South Vietnam, Air America is doing a job that the military is too busy to do, that involves primarily the Rural Development Pacification Program. The USAID Corps puts all the requirements on us. We carry primarily people, mostly Vietnamese people. You'll see some military people riding on our aircraft on a space available basis. In addition to people, we carry everything from medical supplies to typewriters and rice to support the development program and the pacification program. We have many VIPs here that come and go every day, including Ambassador Bunker himself and USAID people that are very high-level people. And when they go there, they don't want to take too much time to get there, and they don't want to take too much time to get back. So they like the bull part. This is the aircraft that's called on for this kind of work because of its performance and its comfort. From day to day, we normally do not know what our requirements are until late the day before. However, we do indeed operate a few regular passenger scheduled operations.
Yeah, well, we run approximately 12,000 passengers a month, about 6,000 in, 6,000 out, with an average of perhaps 25,000 pieces of baggage. The thing that we're really proud of is the low ratio of loss. We get perhaps maybe 3 claims a quarter, 1 a month for lost baggage or pilfered baggage. It might not be all that there is, but that's all that's reported, and this is extremely favorable and considered with other airlines.
Saigon is the hub of the program. USAID headquarters is here, and anyone coming in to visit agriculture or American people or Japanese or whoever they happen to be, come out of here and then go to the provinces and return here to do their paperwork or to conduct their meetings.
This is my wife, Doris, and I'm David Blood. We're going to Nha Trang today to continue our study of the Cham language. We do linguistic, literacy, and Bible translation.
Henning Leibniz, German Caritas, Minqui Hospital Kontum, Montagnard, yes. It's only for Montagnard, this hospital. Very nice people. I think I stay here for my life.
Colonel Dan Renaisen, Phoenix Directorate. I'm going to attend a conference of our Phoenix personnel in the 2nd Military Region.
I work for USAID. Well, it's a Skinwa province with the provincial maintenance shop and warehouse complex. This is strictly a Vietnamese program. And the pole planet here today is going to be used to run electrical wiring to dependent housing, which we're putting up right behind the shop area. with Air America. It's a great savings to us in manpower, plus the fact we got it in quicker. We'd have to do it by hand, and that's an awful lot of work. We can go to work now and get the generator operating and get the lines running. Well, this is the first start of getting electricity in this area at all.
Without the helicopters, it would be virtually impossible to do much of the work that we have to do, because of the fact that the district senior advisors or the provincial senior advisors, in order for them to get from the province capitals, which are usually fixed-wing strips, out to the hamlets and villages which they are required to service, about the only way they can get there is to use the helicopters. The record probably speaks for itself, and I have written several letters addressed actually to individual pilots through the company, commending them on the work that they've done. And frankly, in some cases, they've done just literally fantastic work. Some of the finest pilots that are available. The company is very fortunate to have them working for them.
Lima, Papa Echo, Juliet.
Juliet, Lima, go ahead.
Papa Echo, Juliet, coming up primary, Delta Zulu, operations normal.
Yes.
The average mission we fly here, we carry 13 pallets. So we'll just drop one pallet the first time and use that kind of as the bore site. What the area we've picked as our aiming point. Okay, then we drop two at a time. Even if it's a little bit off, we can still correct it on the next pass and just make a total of 7 passes. There are, of course, many ways to drop. In the C-46, well, I drop in circle, figure eights, rectangle patterns, whatever the terrain calls for, or the turbulence or the weather. Majority of our drops being there on hillsides and little cliff tops and mountain tops and things, we have to pretty much drop in just one direction. You want the bags falling perpendicular to the terrain. When the rice comes out of the plane, it's not only going to have the momentum from the aircraft, it's also going to start being affected by the wind. You vary your aiming point, I'd say up to 15 feet, 20 feet. For just an average wind. Sometimes it might be 50 feet if there's a good strong wind blowing. As you're coming into it, your load's going to be back by the door. It's going to be a little tail heavy. But as you drop, tail's going to come up. Nose go down, you're rising anyway with this sudden loss of weight, especially later on when you're getting pretty much empty the last couple of pallets that go out. I always drop with the 25% flats. Get the tail a little high so when the rice comes out it gives you a little safety margin there so the rice won't hit the tail. Once you've found the power setting, normally in a smooth area, you don't have to change it. Maybe every 2 evolutions, drop 2 pallets, pull a ½ inch of manifold pressure off. It's a million little minor things that all have to be coordinated in together.
Hello, Skycap, Papa Echo, Juliet.
Papa Echo, Juliet, Skycap, go.
Papa Echo, Juliet, completed drop primary, Delta Zulu, Lima 05. Roger.
Well, I'm a registered nurse, and I've always been in nurse education. And I'm a nurse education advisor. I have 2 schools of nursing, the one here at Kanta and the one also at Lumsden. So I do have to depend on Air America to get me there. As a nurse education advisor, I'm responsible for working with a counterpart in each school of nursing. And the counterpart in the United States, he would be called the director of the School of Nursing. He has 7 faculty members under him and about 80 students. I advise him and anything he needs to be advised about, particularly in the areas of curriculum development. A long-term objective is to improve patient care, of course, through the education of student nurses.
The Air America Udorn, Thailand base is a combination helicopter and fixed-wing aircraft maintenance and repair facility. Equally important, we are a flight operations base for a sizable number of turbine and reciprocating powered helicopters, which are flown extensively up country. We are presently developing additional ramp and hangar space with utilities and warehouse buildings to further our capability for maintenance and repair of helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft.
Many people come here and are so surprised to realize what capability we do have here. We can fix helicopters from stem to stern. We can fix fixed-wing airplanes that have been all mashed up. The capability here is something really outstanding. Through our training programs, we have developed any number of excellent Thai mechanics and supervisors and clericals and up into supervisory positions. And we have a continuing emphasis on this. By policy of our company, we want to develop the indigenous skills in the country we're in and to use them to the absolute maximum. Our helicopters are all working up country. The helicopter pilot is a breed all to himself. He's got a different outlook. The helicopter's right down on the ground, flying low. He knows a lot more about how the people are living and what's actually going on up in that neighborhood.
They will work directly with the local people, the male representative at that spot, and they will have to judge as to whether or not his work is worthwhile, especially since helicopter time is so expensive. Basically, the customer has a job to do, and he levies the requirement on it. Move X from A to B. And we tell him then, well, this is the best way to move X from A to B. You're consciously thinking all the time of how you're going to approach the task and what your alternatives are and so on. Normally the loads will run about 1,500 pounds with the F-13 to the normal pads that we're going into up country. If you're going to an unknown place, you always plan for the worst. You have to take into consideration how your winds are blowing. If you have very strong winds that day, you might knock the load down a couple of 100 pounds just to be on the safe side. Your turnaround time with an external load is much faster. You can make an approach to a site, hook an external load up, and be off in less than 15 seconds. We always try and make our approaches into the wind as much as possible. This gives us more lift, longer, until you come out of transitional lift and are ready to hover over the pad. And then you just stabilize your hover high so that the load is not going to hit the pad with a jolt and damage whatever you're carrying. The flight mechanic, he's talking about how high the load is above the ground. He'll say 10 feet, 5 feet, 3 feet, 1 foot, touchdown release. At the same time, you can feel the load touch the ground and less power is required to hover the aircraft at that point.
The difficulty of operating in this part of the world is brought on in large part by the environment in which we function.
Weather changes rapidly in the northern Lao area because of its rugged terrain. There might be a rain shower over one mountain peak while the other peak, which is not far away, has bright sunshine. To make a forecast to these points, you have to consider whether you are forecasting on a ridge or you are forecasting in a valley. Over a ridge, you are most likely to forecast a rain shower, while in a valley, there might be ground fog. And these two places may lie next to each other. And believe me, sir, there's no weather reporting stations anywhere over the mountainous northern Laos.
The weather, the climatology here is 5 months of intensive rain each year, which of course brings on its own operating problems. 7 months of rather indifferent summer weather, which is accentuated by winds up country, dust in great quantities, almost like the Sahara Desert, reduced visibility, and the smoke from the burning of crops by the nomad tribes in the upland regions. This is a form of agricultural culture in Laos.
Where normally it takes around 30 to 60 seconds in responding to the emergency here in Udon.
ซองพอง when you pre-flight the tail rotor, what are you looking for?
I check tail rotor bed position, tail rotor hub position, and the 13 safety wire in place.
Good, exactly right.
It's a progress check for upgrading to captain. He was trained by U.S. military instructor pilots. Our work is somewhat different than what he's been accustomed to, in that we fly with one pilot and one flight mechanic, and we're out for 6 days at a trip. But we consider it a very, very good thing to have two people checking the aircraft. I want him to know practically what the flight mechanic knows. We do external work. This is a quite difficult maneuver. It's just a real good gauge of his control. It demonstrates the man's ability to hover the aircraft in close quarters. It's a precise operation. He has to be able to take it in over this load and hold it steadily while the man hooks it up. It's also a test of his ability to handle high gross weight on takeoff from an out-of-ground effect hover, approximately 1,250 pounds. It demonstrates to me when he can move in over the load smoothly to the spot, lower it, hook up, and lift off, that he has good control of the aircraft. The simulated rescue is simpler than the external load pickup. It is also critical in that he doesn't want to set up a swaying action with the man on the way up or on the way down. You get him swinging 10 to 12 feet or 20 feet perhaps if the control movements aren't at a minimum. We use this procedure also to check our flight mechanics. Each one is equipped for rescue. Since our aircraft are flying continually throughout all of Laos, we are capable of reacting very quickly to any emergency. Generally, we're within 15 to 20 minutes of practically any downed aircraft. The H-34, of course, is equipped with a single engine. We must qualify our people to land this aircraft in case of an engine failure. If you can push the nose of the aircraft to a high angle. That does two things for us. It stops the rate of movement over the ground, or it slows it, and it also at the same time causes larger volume of air rush through the rotor system, and it will increase your rotor RPM, which of course with an engine failure you want to keep rotor RPM. We practice emergencies up to a point. If the engine is not at idle, it's not available in case a mistake is made during the auto rotation. If a mistake is made, we must have the ability to fly it away. Sompong has done very well from the beginning. We anticipate qualifying him as captain as soon as he can finish his area familiarization in northwest Laos.
Then, all of a sudden, Katie had a wonderful idea. It was so wonderful, she jumped 6 feet in the air. The idea was this.
The Air America School has been developed by the company because it was required in order to keep our employees here. We had to provide educational facilities. The school is paid for by Air America and set up by Air America.
Only successfully completed missions pay off for our customers. In Southeast Asia, Air America is operating in a remote, undeveloped area requiring specialized equipment and techniques.
What we are really trying to do is to get across to our pilots, to our engineering supervisors, the technical information concerning the maximum performance capability built in their aircraft. We want to give the customer in this kind of demanding environment everything we can deliver, all the rice, medical supplies, refugees, or what have you, not overgrossing the aircraft nor undergrossing it. Other equally important elements of flight operations are the scheduling and coordination of the numbers of pilots and the type of aircraft we fly.
A simulator, such as the link trainer, provides an opportunity for the supervisor to observe a flight, and it therefore provides a discipline. The link trainer comes out and leaves a track, leaves a record, from which a critique can be conducted, you say, of what he did right and what he did wrong. And in the aircraft, you have no such record.
Well, the minimum time for our Air America pilots is 8 hours a year. But they have 2 check rides, one each 6 months. We watch for his, he maintains altitude and airspeed, heading. We watch for if he uses the proper FAA techniques and procedures.
November 352, this is Yen Tower. Advise you to pull out on 315 to 3000 due to runway obstruction. Over.
Well, the desk at which the instructor sits is the console. It includes a repeater of some of the instruments that the pilot has in the trainer, and it has a recorder which records the track that the pilot flies. And when he corrects for wind and so forth, it shows the wind blowing him off and him correcting back to track and tracking inbound to the station.
When I brief new pilots, I'd like to get them off on the right foot. They're all part of the company, part of the pilot group. We help each other out every day. We depend on each other. We're the guys that are going to have to go pick a guy up if he goes down for engine failure or something like that. And I try to foster this as much as possible. We depend on each other in the area for area briefings. If something happens, a changing situation, we'll pass it on to the other pilots as soon as you find out so that nobody else can run into trouble. This is the secret of our success out here, is, to a large extent, is that we know what the other guy is doing.
On the H-34 pilots leave Udorn, they're gone for 6 days. In these 6 days, probably every day, they'll make landings of 40 or 50 and takeoffs in often completely unfamiliar areas and pads. And the evaluations and decisions that they have to make, including weather, are countless.
If you're coming in with your airfoil level, you're going to take maximum power to come right straight over and right straight down. There's no technique involved. You would need about 50% more horsepower than actually is required. So you bring your cyclic back, and it brings the blades back, and it's just stopping action. The flare actually will take care of probably most of your weight, and then most of your power is saved in case there is emergency. A good technique is you never pull power until after that tail touches, and that takes 30% of your load. So you can land using probably 50%, 60% of your available power. If you have power, you can pull back off. We have to fly very defensively over here because you never know exactly what's going to happen. Like that pad was the first time I'd ever seen it, let alone land in it. This is part of our job, probably a greater part of our job than carrying the rice, but they fit in well together. There's the welfare of these people, of course, which is the same reason for the rice. You are a part, and you're contributing to something that's greater than yourself. And this is very important in flying a helicopter. Now, as I take off, to use the least amount of power is good for technique, but also in case of power failure, it gives us the best chance of getting off the pad and getting to a low area. We want to get into translational lift as soon as possible, which in this aircraft is 13 knots. So as we take off now, if we turn directly into wind, we'd be going directly into the hill. We have our nose just to the left of the wind now. Directly in front of us is the greatest drop. We'll roll as far as we can, maintaining our ground cushion. Getting to the edge of the pad, We have to push forward. It's a slight cycle. It's very smooth, so you don't feel any lift from that tip path. Just as we break the lift, we can feel that shudder. We're in translation. We decrease power, and we're offline. This is a more aggressive type takeoff, but is the one we recommend and the one we teach.
This year, we're averaging about 38 heavy services a month in Saigon, and that's with 38 to 40 aircraft positioned in Saigon. But we do all the heavy service work for all of the aircraft. Majority is every 100 hours you do a check. Different types of aircraft, different spacing of time. First time you're on, you call the 1. Next time you call the 2, and you just dig into it more deeply. We do some 3s in country on a small aircraft. The large aircraft, Caribou 46, 47 goes to Tainan for the number 3 checks. Because the men are so hard to come by. We started the girls into fabric, doping fabric, and we assigned them to the shop as laborers to aid and assist maintenance people, mechanics. And then as they progressed, we arranged classes and started them more formal training in the classroom a little bit. Those who developed, we checked out and promoted them to mechanic 3s. Anytime you can show the item, tools are easy. They're small. You can lay out a display on the desk, and then you can just talk about a hacksaw, and you can hold it up, because they have no idea if the hacksaw looks like a tire or a drill motor or a voltometer. So they have just a brief recognition. And if they absorb about 10% of that, it's a great help.
Here we have oven brand.
The female sheet metal mechanics are our best product that we have produced through technical training of the indigenous people. And actually, they've really developed very well, to the point we were able to release an equal number of third country national men who were transferred to Udorn, where the talent was more badly needed.
Well, I've been working in psychological operations for almost 8 months now. As far as Air America goes, my own personal feeling, they have helped out core psychological operations most definitely. They've been over backwards to help us in our efforts. And there were a lot of times when we needed special flights, and they arranged everything for us, and they've just been great. These leaflets, we're trying to get the people in this rather insecure area to rally to the government. The leaflet we dropped today is a Chu Hoi leaflet. The Chu Hoi program definitely has been successful. There's been many Hoi Chans coming in and rallying to the government, and the Chu Hoi program itself has really been successful, and we here in psychological operations feel that the Chu Hoi leaflets themselves have had a great amount to do with this. We know that they're not going to get to everyone, but we hope that with this mass distribution like this, they'll find the people we're trying to contact, and just getting the idea across that we're trying to, that this will be very successful.
Hey, Jima Tower, this is Air America 782. 782, Yo, Jima. Request present position, over. Roger, 782 is 10 miles north, present time. 782. Active runway 07, wind condition at 120 degrees at 18, QNH 2996, report turning base with the general cover. David Jim, Air America 782, turning base leg, present time. 782, wind condition at 120 degrees at 18, landing at pilot discretion, over. Roger, 782.
Now for the last 10.5 months, and
I'm coming in now for a week's R&R. After this, when I go back, I'll only have 6 weeks to go, and I can go home, be with my family. Air America has been our only link with the outside world here. They've been the only link that we've had anything.
Tainan is, first of all, a large aircraft maintenance depot, performing overhaul, repair, servicing, and testing of many types of aircraft and their engines and components. Tainan provides training, work instructions, manuals, part support to all of the company system bases and stations.
We are responsible for the management, the control, the warehousing, the purchasing of well over 120,000 separate line items of material. 80,000 of the line items are maintained here at Tainan, with the balance maintained at the various line stations scattered throughout the Far East. They range from small 2-cent washers on up to this very high-cost landing gear for a 105 jet airplane.
I believe that a significant feature of the activities at Tainan is the great variety of work which we undertake. This is best illustrated by the some 6,000 types of accessories, components, and instruments which are overhauled and tested in the shop, and also by a very great variety of types of aircraft which are maintained here. Here at Tainan, during the last 2 or 3 years, we have had approximately 70 to 85 aircraft in work on a daily basis. To these aircraft are applied some 350,000 man-hours per month of productive effort. Work is of great importance, both in safety and in cutting costs by avoiding doing jobs twice. We here in Tainan give 100% inspection to critical parts of the aircraft and critical jobs. AirAsia has made a special effort to develop capability in avionics and integrated instrument systems because these systems have had the most radical change in the last few years. The level of skill and experience of our avionics technicians is quite high and has attracted outside business from both commercial and military sources. AirAsia currently employs some 3,600 people at Tainan. 98.5% of these are Chinese. We consider ourselves very fortunate to have a large percentage of our workforce highly skilled, with 10 to 20 or 30 years experience, and very well educated. Labor, of course, is what we sell and what we use for company purposes. This skilled workforce is one of our greatest assets.
Here at Tainan, the most important reason we teach English is to prepare the student to receive instruction, technical instruction, in English. His textbooks are written in English and his instructors speak English.
Gentlemen, we are going to start left engine only. When engine starts, we'll check idle RPM, we'll check idle mixture, we'll check magneto RPM drop, we'll check propeller pitch change. If we find something wrong, we will repair it. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. Another important reason we teach English is that English is the language of aviation in the Far East today. It would be an impossible task to translate all of the technical manuals, all of the technical orders, and all of the new developments into the various languages of Southeast Asia. I'm a veterinarian working for the University of Minnesota. My current title is Veterinary Advisor for Region 4. I work with the Animal Husbandry Branch in that Agriculture Service. This is the part of the government of Vietnam that I am trying to build. And the other thing is that I train vaccinators. I work with some veterinarians and what they call veterinary engineers. And we go around the country and we train people to vaccinate livestock. Air America hauls the vaccine from Saigon, where it is produced, from there to 4 regional vaccine banks. One of them is in Canton. And from here, Air America hauls the vaccine to the 16 provinces in Region 4. Today we went out and vaccinated with one of the several vaccines the government of Vietnam produces. And this vaccine is for a bacterial disease called pasteurellosis. This is Bun toi heo in Vietnamese. It's a disease that produces pneumonia, respiratory disease, and very often death, especially in buffalo and cattle. In swine, I've seen several dozen cases. I like it because I guess I feel a personal satisfaction and help increase protein production in Vietnam. I can see some progress. I've been here 1 year and I can see some progress in 1 year.
I've flown the Helio for 3 years and Porter for the last 2.
This is a very effective short takeoff and landing aircraft because of the high lift wing. As you can see, along the top edge, a very noticeable curvature. This is the camber of the wing, and it extends for a constant value throughout the length of the wing and offers it very high lift capabilities. The propeller that is installed on our over 500 shaft horsepower turboprop engine produces a great amount of thrust, and combined with the high lift wing, gets us off the ground in 500-foot strips very reliably.
The Porter has installed in the cabin floor a swinging double door, and the release handle for that door is right up by the pilot's left hand. To drop rice out of the Porter, you fly over the drop zone, simply pull this handle, and the rice is very accurately dropped. There are 2 things that enable the Porter to land in short strips conveniently. One is its low approach speed through the airfoil shape, and the other is the reversible propeller on the engine. And when you approach a short strip at 55 knots and touch down smoothly, immediately affecting reverse thrust, why, it's just very impressive. I carry everything from baby pigs and freshly butchered buffalo to VIPs, in and out of 10,000-foot to 500-foot strips, all with equal facility, really. The airplane, when carefully prepared, is a very nice VIP airplane, although it's a little noisy inside. And when using it as a workhorse, why, it's very handy with a big, open, easily loaded cabin. It's real handy for carrying refugees, boxes, and odd-shaped packages, and mismanaged kids, and unmanageable kids, and anything that you can think of.
And they've become attached to the program, attached to the people. And they've got very little to support them, especially when it comes to picking up sick or wounded. If we don't pick them up, the odds are that they're going to die, because all they have is a village witch doctor to help them out. Therefore, I'll put out a little extra effort to go get a guy if he's in trouble.
The program itself is a village health program. It's primarily all we do in this area. I have responsible for the medics, the medical warehouse, and all the field dispensaries. We can't airdrop this stuff, that's obvious. It'll be all broken up, and you have to have someone go in with it and explain things and make sure it's being used properly. So it has to be brought in by a STOL aircraft. If they have 600 people that stay there, we keep a medic in. And we just primarily take care of the population. And we see that they get some medical care, and for now refugee status, and they're needing refugee relief and medicine. Once they're moving and resistance run down, and so they're they're prone to come down with the malaria and dysenteries. Every site that we have left now has refugees moving in or through, and they're using more medicine. And primarily the job is just make sure that they're supplied. Check the dispensary first to see it's clean. Check to see that he's got his medicine there, and check his book. We have a record book. If there's no problem, like there isn't at most of these places, we just check on them to see if they're all right. We like to know what's going on, and USAID and Van Chen wants to know what's going on, and Pop wants to know what's going on, and he wants an American out there to see it, and he wants Americans to be seen out in the villages. To let the people know that we're here and we're still supporting the program. And it's a good program and good people to work with. Pop and all these guys are great. Pop's people.
This is glutinous rice. It originally comes in from Thailand, packaged in 100-kilo bags. USAID has a contractor in Vientiane that triple bags the rice and cornmeal and salt for drop. The reason that it's put in triple bags is to resist breakage. It's undoubtedly cheaper to land rice than it is to drop it because on landing rice there is practically no breakage. The rice is delivered at Watai Airport where it is warehoused and palletized by a team of palletizers that work for traffic at Air America. The two bottom bags on the pallet are securely tied so that when the rice leaves the aircraft, the pallet does not fly up and hit the horizontal stabilizer. The remaining 7 bags are stacked on top of the first 2. The bags are shaken out so that they're as flat as possible and laid on a wooden pallet that is equipped with guide rollers to slide easily up and down the roller conveyors that are mounted in the aircraft. Each pallet is made up of 9 bags of rice. Each bag weighs 40 kilos, and the entire package is tied with a series of double ropes across the top and a slip knot in one side. The purpose of the slip knot is to provide a means for attaching a 15-foot static line. The other end is attached, of course, to the anchor line cable in the aircraft. As the rice is dropped over the DZ, the entire pallet leaves the aircraft, and at about 10 feet below the aircraft, the static line jerks the slip knot loose, and the bags begin immediately to separate. The purpose of this is to ensure that each bag hits the ground individually as opposed to allowing the entire pallet to hit the ground as a unit. So we have found that when this happens, the entire package is apt to burst and a lot of rice is lost. When the bags hit the ground individually, there is comparatively little loss. In addition to delivering glutinous rice by free fall, we also deliver cornmeal and salt by the same method.
We're estimating Kadena at 4-0, and we'll need maintenance. We need a vertical gyro, MR 41228, and also both Freons need service.
Thank you for your ETA. Air America on Okinawa is ground handling 225 MAC handlings per month.
All of our passenger operation here is contracted to commercial aircraft, and Air America ground handles the majority of these aircraft. We run an hour and 15 to 2-hour ground time. We can completely offload, onload, and ground handle the passengers, offload and unload the baggage during this period of time.
Air America is responsible for the cleaning and grooming of the cabin. The carriers look to Air America to maintain the contract requirements as set forth by the military.
What we're doing here is
patching up the ruts caused by the rain and marking it and making sure that the runway surface is smooth and suitable for use by fixed-wing airplanes. This site is pretty primitive in the tools available for use in constructing a runway. So we have to resort to very, very primitive methods which rely on manpower alone. We use, as you can see, these dirt drags, which are simply burlap sacks, usually left over from a previous rice crop to the area. And I explained to them how to build these simple little wooden tampers for compacting the clay on the runway. And the villagers build the runway for their own use, medical evacuations, supplies, medical supplies. This strip is about 670 feet long with a safe usable width of around 44 feet. It's only usable by Porter and Helio aircraft. It cannot be lengthened, obviously due to the terrain limitations.
When you turn to final approach, somewhere from base to final, and usually fairly far out, if you're loaded, you arrive at a point where you have to land the airplane. Due to surrounding rising terrain on the other end of the strip, there's nothing to do but land it. Water buffaloes, people, or whatever, or updrafts, downdrafts that further damage your attempt at a good landing, you still know that you have to get to the end of that strip and land the airplane. That's it. This makes you pretty careful about committing yourself to this condition. You find and remember the strips that you can't go around, that you have to land on, and so you make every precaution that you can to be sure that you'll be able to safely land the airplane the first time. These are things that tax your ability to the utmost. Even the most experienced pilot taxes them. These are the things this interests me. To figure if it's possible to do this with a modicum of safety and a reasonable degree of surety that you will be able to get the job done, as opposed to whether you'd better just forget it and give up. You're charged with this almost every day, and judgment's left to you all day long. Well, most everybody here that sits in the left seat of an airplane has been in one war for sure, and maybe two or three. I personally have close to 15,000 hours, and I'd say that probably the average of the captains out here is 10,000 hours, or 7,000 at least. The pros, the ones that do it day in and day out, and actually do it as much for the love of flying as for the money that Air America pays them.
Because of the fantastic number of flights, we must use computers to collate. We have a contract with IBM to use their 3630 computer data processing division in Hong Kong. It does complete the payroll for the entire Southeast Asia. We begin with the flight log, which is completed by the pilots in the field. These are processed by the base stations and submitted to us. These come in every day. We have 28 to 30,000 flights a month. Each flight leg represents one IBM card. In addition to the IBM cards, we have crew data, crew name, employee number, and salary, base rate, and so forth. Payroll is the primary purpose for the existence of data processing. That's the biggest job that we have. And, we use the same data to compute numerous reports. We take these IBM cards after they're punched and run them through an edit routine on the computer, which double checks the arithmetic that the pilot completed. It validates other areas, contract numbers, so forth, aircraft numbers. We run this routine every week. At the end of the month, we get all of the cards together after they've been edited, and we put it on tape. We produce a report by each individual aircraft, and one by aircraft type, one by contract, and one by location. For example, Vientiane and Udorn, we do have altogether 30
programs that we run.
This particular strip is located in northern Laos, and it's 4,400 feet above sea level. It's one of the highest caribou strips we have in the country. It's 1,300 feet long and 50 feet wide. Before I landed at an upcountry strip, I checked the field for security, also checked for horses or pigs on the strip. If there are any, I try to buzz them off. Winds are a big problem. After flying in this part of the world for the last 8 years for Air America, experience has taught me that windsocks do not always indicate the true direction because of turbulence and changeability on these ridgeline strips. This is a tough strip. It's necessary that I get the maximum short takeoff and landing performance built into this aircraft.
Senior Area Public Safety Advisor for the Marine Police Fourth Corps. When they hail these water taxis, our larger vessels on the river, the noise of the engines that those sampans or vessels have themselves, plus the wind, it's hard for them to hear us. If they don't hear us, then the smaller boats are dispatched to intercept them, hold them, or bring them back. This is just a routine type boat check. They'll go through, they'll look at the boat papers, boat operator's license, the manifest for any cargo that's on the boat, and then the individuals, personal papers, ID cards, transportation authorization. We use the Air America helicopters 2 days a week in Fourth Corps that they are assigned to public safety. The helicopters have been a great asset to us. When I first came here, the security situation was such that in areas it was impossible to drive. So the helicopters would take us in. They can set us down anywhere. We could inspect 3 or 4 bases a day. So they've been a real asset to us.
Worldwide flight capability makes the 727 a versatile aircraft. Air America owns and leases 727s to another operator.
So our 727s are the C model, which enables us to operate one flight as cargo, perhaps the next flight in an all-passenger configuration, or in most cases we operate in a mixed configuration. The mixed configuration, of course, is normally a 46-seat configuration along with capability of carrying 4 pallets. Of course, our maximum effort is our trip from Saigon to Kimpo. That is a 5-hour flight, all packs and/or mixed configuration of 61 seats plus 2 pallets of cargo.
The Boeing 727 can be adapted for aerial deliveries. Upon arrival at the drop zone, the cabin can be depressurized, the ventral exit open, and after the drops are accomplished, the cabin can again be pressurized for return to base at jet altitude.
Air America's primary mission in northern Thailand here in Chiang Mai is support of the Border Patrol Police advisors. And in supporting them, we in turn assist the Border Patrol Police in the transfer of their personnel, foodstuffs, supplies,
into the various mountain sites. Also, on occasion, we're asked to assist in medevacs of the hill tribers or to transfer medical supplies to them by the local missionary group. Cleared land is quite difficult to come by, so these people have a tendency to want to cultivate any area that's been cleared. So the first pass is always an observation pass. Check it and make sure the livestock has been cleared off prior to making your landing approach. The strips themselves are very demanding. They're at up to a mile high as far as elevation, very short, very rough, and basically unimproved. Well, this particular strip here, to an old carrier pilot, reminds me of landing aboard a carrier, in that you're approaching it in a manner that you're flying the aircraft with power and attitude and not too high a rate of descent, and aiming for a particular point. Also, as you glance down, it's kind of a ways to fall because of the ridgeline that it's built on.
America, they're doing very good job, because not only doing as the advisor or the contractor, they're doing the job like their own job. They pay their own attention like it's their own aircraft.
Well, we're here to assist the Thai Police Aviation Division, to assist, to train, to help develop an internal structure that we hope will be self-sustaining for them up to depot level type maintenance. So we want to develop their capability as far as upkeep for their helicopters, and this includes shops, sheet metal work, avionics repair, troubleshooting, supply. We are advising them on maintenance, and at the same time we're trying to show them how to set up a maintenance structure and a supply structure, a procurement system. Well, I'm the chief maintenance supervisor of the contract. Now, my job, of course, is to see that the contract does what it's supposed to do. Well, we make a monthly scheduled stop at Phandanouvong to inspect the helicopter, the facilities, the tooling, the equipment, the whole operation at that station, because we try to make sure that our mechanics keep these stations up to a level that we are sure that they can operate. We look at everything on a helicopter, specifically items like the rotor heads, the engines, tail rotors, things of this nature, which would be safety of flight factors. Well, we have 14 major outstations, plus we have other sites that helicopters work out of on a daily basis. Now we have hangars, we have heliports, we have a certain amount of supplies, storage. We have more or less a self-sustaining facility at each one of these things to support one of the major police areas without having to rely on Bangkok except for major problems or major support.
The helicopter is not the appropriate vehicle for carrying its own fuel around, simply because of limitations on weight and cube. And in many cases, this is compounded by the altitude at which the location is situated, where you would almost be unable to bring anything more than a drum or two of fuel. So in the case of the 123 fuel drops, this is primarily in support of the choppers and in some cases the light aircraft. There's no point in putting 4 barrels of fuel in a porter when you can drop the same 4 barrels on a pallet from a 123.
Well, it's like a wagon. It's a very heavy airplane. It's heavy on the controls. As they say, it takes 2 men and a boy to wrestle it around. But in my opinion, it's a good airplane. I don't think there's an airplane designed today that could do the job that 123 is doing. It's a coordinated effort between the co-pilot and kicker, the AFS, and the captain. When I have determined that I'm just about the right spot to drop, I call out over the radio to drop it. As pre-briefed, my co-pilot hits the jet throttle switch. At the same time, I increase the recip engine to 100% power and start a pull-up and a climb. And this puts the airplane down in the position, the back end of it down a little bit, so the load accelerates out the back end. What you really need is a fast acceleration when you drop. And the faster the acceleration, the faster the load departs the aircraft. And the faster the load departs, the smaller the DZ that you can put the load into. The jet gives us much more acceleration, so we can run out from under it much faster. In other words, I mean, as you accelerate, the load slides out the back end. As soon as the load's cleared the aircraft, then the AFS calls that the load is clear, and at that time, my co-pilot reduces power on the jet, because the jets do burn a lot of fuel. And of course, I handle the recip engines, come back off the power, and let the nose slowly drop back down to the horizon.
There's certain things that you just have to be conscious of all the time, especially when you're working in remote areas away from a central location. You're flying around there. I'm always looking at villages and open areas and looking to see what's going on down there, so to speak, and always watching the weather. The weather is very changeable this time of year, and now a thunderstorm can move in behind you and cut you off, and then you're out there and you run out of fuel before you can get back to home base, so to speak. You always have to think, well, I've got to get back tonight, and the weather's bad, or the possibility of thunderstorms will block my way back, so I better start a little earlier, or go around and put more fuel in so I can get all the way back, or things of this nature.
Air America at Clark provides ground handling service for various U.S. carriers that fly to and from the Philippines in support of their contract to the Military Airlift Command. In lieu of each contract carrier having their own maintenance, traffic, and operations personnel, we provide this service to them. Turn their aircraft around in the allotted ground time. We act on their behalf in all matters. And this particular operation here is on a scheduled basis, and it is operated not too much differently from a regular scheduled airline in the United States.
Well, I think Air America has been doing an outstanding job here. Not only is it professionally competent, but also its structural organization permits amount of flexibility that any ambassador in a war-torn country finds highly desirable and extremely valuable. For example, the work that has been done with the refugees here, we have been called upon to exert a maximum effort in getting these poor people out of a threatened or dangerous area with very short time. Air America has been able to come up with a maximum airlift in the shortest possible time. I also can't help but be impressed with the gallantry of the Air America pilots and crew members. I think another factor that's important here is the variety of Air America assets in the country today, which range from your small, short strip takeoff aircraft such as the Porters through the workhorse of airlift, the 46s. We thus have a whole range of aircraft that can be used so that we are able to economize to a great extent and to fulfill the mission that's assigned to us here. For example, if you have to take a doctor and a patient into a small strip or out of a small strip, if you use a Porter, it would save a great deal of money than if you had to use some larger aircraft on such a humanitarian mission.
This is usually done in a rather short span of time because the refugee movement is brought about by the advance of unfriendly forces, and it usually doesn't get started until the unfriendlies are within, let's say, hailing distance of where you're trying to remove the people from. So this adds a certain urgency to what we're doing, and means that you have to get as many people on the airplane as you possibly can and move them out as rapidly as you possibly can. It's sometimes a heart-rending sight to see these people, many of whom have moved countless numbers of times, getting on the aircraft with all their worldly possessions wrapped up in a bamboo or wicker container. You see an awful lot of sorrow, of hurt, of anguish, of people deprived of their livelihood, of families split up, of all the things that make up a migration of any kind of a population. This sooner or later gets the guys. They get back and they don't want to talk about it at first, and then finally they do, and they say, you know, it sure is a heck of a note the way things are going. And maybe I can get in one more trip today. I could quit at 6, but I'll make it 7, because if I take that 7th one, I'll get somebody out. Somebody who might be deprived of his liberty or made to carry 40-kilo rice bags down a mountain trail for the rest of his existence. And they begin to become compulsive for this sort of, you know, one more trip means one more load. One more load means so many more people, either going in with supplies or coming out with people. And the job is to get that airplane in the air, fly it, take the load, bring it back, you know, do it again. There's no question in my mind, but without the services such as Air America can provide in the uplift of vitally needed food to the far-out regions of Laos, that large segments of the population forced to be on the move by the enemy for many, many months and years would today be starving. You can almost see the hungry people surging forward to grab the rice when it lands, knowing that they're grateful for the way in which it's delivered to them by Air America, and you wonder what they'd do without it. There is an old story which maybe describes this, about one child who, when asked where rice came from, said it comes from the air, meaning that's where, in her opinion, it was grown, because that throughout her life, that's the only place she'd seen rice coming from. Any underdeveloped country, of which Laos is perhaps the prime example in Southeast Asia, you are going to need someone who can furnish the kind of service which Air America provides, whether it is in war or peace, and that is the movement of people, the movement of things, the movement of supplies, emergency and otherwise. It's going to be a long time before this part of the world has anything approaching the Los Angeles freeway. And until it does, there has to be a substitute mechanism for getting goods distributed and raw materials collected. And only air can provide that. And we don't make policy in Air America. We simply execute the end product, which is deliver the goods wherever they may be called for to deliver, and to bring back the people and the wounded and the sick, and not to make politics as between groups. We've brought back friendly wounded, we've brought back unfriendly wounded, but the name of the game was to bring people out because a life was at stake, not because of a political philosophy was being tried up country. It's to that extent humanitarian, I think. My gosh, feeding people is not a political thing. That if it isn't upon Air America that they must depend, it's upon no one, because otherwise they can't walk to where the rice is because they won't have the strength. They can't walk to where the warmth and salvation lies, I guess. I guess that's what I'm saying. They have to be carried.